Hello all. Today I'd like to present a shorter game. This one was only 4 turns long. Um, it was against um, another new player you'd probably find if you were playing Quickmatch. And as always, before you dive into your game, it's always worth taking a quick look at the player's profile. In this case, my opponent is crushing. Um, his win rate is 1v1, 107 out of 290, 37%. Um, and this means that you're probably playing a player who plays only quick match and is a not particularly skillful player. So, a rule of thumb when we are playing somebody who we feel is probably not a particularly skillful player is just to go for um, uh, um, a good amount of income within two turns, if or the first turn bonus if it's available. So usually 12 for 2 um, is what we want to be going for, and we want good spread, strong picks, safe income, um, and a lot of it quickly. So in this case, I chose to pick Central America first and combo it with East China and West China. And this ensures that if I get my first 3 picks, I will be able to get 12 income in 2 turns. My fourth pick here is chosen to as a contingency pick. If we per se lost our first pick, this fourth pick still allows us to get 12 income in 2 turns. If we lost either our second or our third pick, we have the option of going for 11 income in 2 turns. So we'll be able to pick up quick income with um, uh, pick number 4 if we lose one of these 2 first picks. Pick number 5 is made to counter the case our opponent decides that they want to cluster in East Asia and we lose our 2-3. Our fifth is positioned such that we could counter that quickly. And our sixth pick is positioned such that it counters the fourth pick. Remember, um, if you get your sixth pick, you're guaranteed to miss your fourth and your fifth pick. So the sixth pick is a useful um, counter to the fourth pick here. First pick also usually pairs well with sixth pick because usually a lot of the time when you get your sixth pick, you miss your first. Although this isn't always true. Um, with that being said, I think I've covered everything. With the first 6 picks. So I'd like to move on with this game. So this is oops. We don't want to see what our opponent's doing. Um, dang it. Okay. Okay. So when I committed, I got my second, and first. Okay, great. Um, this is perfectly fine for us. I think getting 12 for 2 in this situation, if we don't encounter a opponent, is really good for us. So the plan is to take both bonuses on turn 2, and we take it in such a way that we first take our safest territory, as always. So we know that there's no possibility of somebody coming from Taiwan. So there's no possibility because there's no one starting on Taiwan. So we take this territory first. Um, we then take um, Beijing just to make absolutely sure that no cheeky play is coming from, well, we would see Inner Mongolia anyway, but this is still a very safe um, territory for us to take. they're all very safe territories at the start here. Um, and we also want to take Hong Kong just to check to make sure that our opponent's not in Southeast Asia. Um, so essentially, Beijing and Hong Kong, um, they're all very safe territories to take, and we definitely want our last order to be Mexico, because there still is the possibility of a counter from Southwest, even though it isn't very likely. So this order comes last, or oh, it should have came last. It came second to last, which isn't necessarily the best, but it's okay. A little mistake like that probably won't do you against a new player. And something very interesting about this turn, though, is that we already know after turn one what our opponent's picks are. And the reason why we can tell this is okay, so the first thing we see on this turn, as far as our opponent's intel, is that we see an attack from Argentina to Colombia. And that gives away the Argentina pick. The second thing we notice is that we see armies on southwest, and we know that that's a start. So we definitely know that our opponent is there. The third thing we notice is that our opponent attacked from Gulf Coast to Texas. That betrays this third pick. We already know all three of our opponent's picks, and we're able to take East China here without deploying anything additional, which is really, really good for us. This is completely safe. There's nobody here. We know all our opponent's picks. What we do not know, and we do not have the intel for, is that we don't know whether our opponent decided to go after West US or South America. So, um, the best move here is something that's going to take a little bit of thought. Let's take a look at the board and how our opponent takes. So, in the case that our opponent decided to go after West US, he would have deployed all five to Southwest, and he would have taken something like perhaps he'd attack California with five and Great Basin with three, leaving him with four on California and two on Great Basin. So to complete West US, and he's already in Texas, he would have to deploy five to Great Basin, um, because he's on base income. So all his income would have to go to the Great Basin, and he'd have to take Pacific Northwest and the Great Plains. So in doing so, in taking in such a manner, um, I know we saw that California was three, but this is just for example purposes. He would be unable to take on Mexico, and this is really important. If he was to try for a complete West US, he'd be unable to take Mexico, which means we maintain a double border on his income. We can choose to, on the next turn, either attack Southwest or Texas, or even, well, probably not recommended, go to Baja, and continue to stack. But um, because of that, and because we have this double border, it makes it very, very, very difficult for our opponent to defend West US if he completes it. So, all right, what about South America? It's possible for him to deploy some to Colombia. Um, say, for example, we saw visibly that he had two here. Let's say that he deployed all five of his first armies to Argentina. He attacked Colombia with three, and he attacked Colombia, say, with five. So there'd be four armies on Brazil. So to complete South America, he would deploy three armies to Brazil and um, likely deploy two armies to Colombia in in an attempt to defend it. in which case, um, uh, he would, in which case, he would have four armies on Colombia, and he would have completed South America. Therefore, the most logical move and deploy here, since it would be very difficult to break South America after it's completed if we don't attack it straight away, would be to deploy all five of our armies to Panama and attack Colombia. And by doing so, um, even if he deploys two here to defend it and he succeeds in his defense because he doesn't decides not to attack or something or does something silly like that, what we're left with is um, a sorely incompleted West US, and furthermore, a stack advantage over Colombia. And all we would have to do thereafter to win the game is just to keep um, deploying all our armies to Panama and just keep attacking Colombia because we will eventually, with that army advantage, be able to break it if he tries to do anything else. So that's the plan of attack on turn one. We don't bother trying to counter West US because if he takes it, we'll maintain the double border. It's more important to try and attack Colombia so that if he were to complete it, we can maintain a stack advantage from Panama to Colombia, um, since it would be much more difficult to break South America without some sort of significant stack advantage. So that's the plan of attack here. And of course, we'll also complete East China, and we'll also bring the leftover from Mexico to Panama, first order. This is a little thing. Uh, this is like a little optimization play. If your opponent, you don't want to leave leftovers hanging like this. If it's very efficient, it's a very inefficient defense, army defensive too. So generally, you either want to be uh, tapping with on first order or retreating your armies back to where there's more armies. So that's why this delay comes first. Um, we also take Taiwan. We do a few more delays, and then we hit Colombia. So, you notice that instead of seeing a deploy of two to Colombia or a deploy of five to Colombia and a take of Venezuela or something like that, um, you'll notice that there were four armies coming from Brazil to Colombia on this turn. What this tells us then is that since he took four armies from Brazil to Colombia, and we also did not see him taking Venezuela directly from Colombia, it is impossible for our opponent to have South America. Um, as we discussed earlier, in order for that to occur, there would have to have been a defensive four on Colombia. So there are just too many armies here. If we were to count out what he did, he had four here, right? So he deployed, um, let's see, nine, right? Yep. He deployed eight or nine. He deployed eight or nine armies here, and he attacked Bolivia with three, leaving him with six. Uh, wait, four, five. Yep, six, and then he would be attacking Colombia with or transferring Colombia four, perhaps maybe leaving a leftover or something. Who knows what he did with that extra army? But what we know for sure is that it was impossible for him to take Venezuela this turn. So after turn two, we know for sure that we are up income. We know for sure that he went after South America and is trying to complete it, and we know for sure that he didn't deploy additionals to West US. So it's just safe for us on turn three to just continue with the assault. Um, in case he was to deploy everything to Colombia, we do want to take card piece, and and him not, so that we're ahead in that regard as well. So we deploy one to Shanxi, and we attack, um, and we just deploy the rest and go for a full-on out assault of Colombia. Because at this point, if our opponent were to try to complete the um, Venezuela um, in any regard, after delays or whatnot, any the attempt will either fail or will break. Um, the attack will either fail or will break him. So we just go for it, and we just simply, after this point, have outplayed our opponent. He is behind on income, behind on position, behind on armies. He's not coming back from this one. He can't complete anything. We can just easily counter everything. We're already well on our way to completing West China. We're ahead in one. Well, we're not ahead in card piece, but we're just crushing. So their opponent realized that, and they surrendered, and that was the end of the game. We can go back and see what his picks were. Um, he ended up picking only 5 picks, and he completely clustered around this region. It's never a good idea to put all your eggs in one basket like this. All I need is one pick, and to ruin your day, and that's exactly what happened here. You can just simply crush an opponent who clusters around there by just having a pick in the region, and just completely obliterate any chance of them getting any income whatsoever. And if you're curious to see what happened with that extra army, I guess I missed it. It was there. He did deploy one southwest. Um, I missed that in the analysis, but that's okay. It didn't matter where that army went. Um, but that's all I have. Is just a quick little game for you, and just an explanation. I hope this provides a good idea of what I'm thinking when I see my opponent's picks right away, and how I'm able to count out my opponent to make sure that I am making the most accurate move as possible. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed.